noticed about fishing, it never works out so well for the bait.
Come on, you could say it's okay, they know.
Metal is stronger than glass.
Tell them I'm going fishing.
All right, guys. Well, here with us today on Season 2, Episode 1, Mr. Ott Defoe. I want to run down some of your accolades just for a minute. I don't think you need an introduction, but I want to give you a pretty good one. So because you deserve it. You are you're one of the best in the industry, and I think everybody knows it. So he's the 2011 Bassmaster Elite Series Rookie of the Year. He's a 2019 Classic Champion on the River in Knoxville. He has been on the Bass Pro Tour with MLF since 2019. In the last 4 years, he has had 4 major wins, 3 on the stages and 1 as a heavy hitter. So he is a stick in the industry, and we really appreciate his time today. Mr. Ott Defoe, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, Chris. Yeah, I appreciate you having me on, and looking forward to this.
So you're fresh off. I mean, this is fresh off of Toledo Bend.
Yeah,
you had a great start. Are you happy with that 17th place finish?
You know, on one hand, I need to be extremely happy with it. Okay, and on the other hand, you know, just the way our format is of making that top 20 cut, the weight's re-zero, and you're against 20 guys, you got a 50-50 shot at making the top 10. So mathematically, it's like, I mean, yeah, it's the best 20 in the field at that particular event, but mathematically, half of us are going to make it, and that part of it frustrated me that I did not. You know, I had a real good streak of top 10s last year. I was really wanting to, you know, keep adding to that this year, and getting out of those first 2 rounds. You know, I kind of felt like I was championship bound at that point in time. But what I said at the beginning of that, I should be really happy with it because I wasn't on much. I found one small deal, a small backwater deal, basically. That, listen, it honest to goodness, about a 3-acre pond, and I made the knockout round out of that. I mean, I got a top 20 finish basically out of a 3-acre pond, going round and around for 2 days in a row. So you know what I mean. I should be very happy with the 17th place finish.
Yeah.
But it's the fact of being in that cut, you know, just needing to beat half the field one day to make the championship. That was the frustrating part. But yeah, no, looking back at it, I need to hold my head up because I maximized what I found there at Toledo.
So do you think that it just ran out of fish, or that area kind of died off for round 3?
Yeah, I do. And I mean, the first day I was in there was my best day, as it should have been, being in such a small area. I had almost 40 pounds out of there my first day. I don't think any other competitors fished it in another group, and none other ones did in my group. You know, so that probably was about the potential of it, you know, 40, 45 pounds one time. What was the best that it had to offer, and the next day I caught like 30 pounds out of there. I think had we been there in another month, it could have done that over and over because there would have been better potential of more fish coming in. I think what I caught there were kind of the fish that probably had wintered there, to be honest, because I had some deeper water in it. You know, so I truly think the fish that I caught there were just fish that lived there. There really weren't, you know, fish pulling up to spawn or anything like that. So I think that's why it didn't necessarily reload. I just kind of caught what was there, and that was that.
So you mentioned the factors, deep water. I was going to ask, what do you think the factors in this little area were that contributed to all that weight? You had that deeper water nearby. Was there a feeder creek in there as well, or is it just kind of a flat?
No, it was a residential deal. It was basically a canal that had some open water back in it and deeper water back in it. You know, and the thing, Toledo had been down. It was like 4 feet low before we got there, and had been low for a considerable amount of time. I don't know if it was 3 months or 6 months, but the water had been low there for quite some time. Yeah. You know, so other areas leading into that deal were 3, 4, 5 feet deep, maybe. With that in the back, when I was there, had 12 or 14 feet of water in it. So I think fish that were maybe, you know, out in some of this area knew that security of that deeper water were back in there. So with the lake low, it probably pulled a few extra fish in. Well, then the lake had came up, so some of those fish may have actually scattered and kind of left, but there wasn't a lot of other good stuff in that area to really be a magnet, to pull those fish in. So it was just a residential canal deal with a little bit of deeper. It had the deepest water in that area. I mean,
Okay.
there might have been another place there in a creek channel that was out in front of it that had similar depth, but for a backwater like what it was, far and away the deepest water available.
That's that. I mean, 14 for me, where I fish, is not deep at all.
Right.
But for you, is that, I mean, in that specific area, obviously that's the deepest part of it. It was kind of like a ditch deal.
It was a pond, but I mean it was off of the main creek, and that the main creek channel had some 10 and 12 foot deep water in it, but that was the only other thing. It was just a little windy channel, so yeah, this was really the deepest water available.
Now, did you have an idea that you were going to look at this body at this area before the tournament, or did you find it in practice?
No,
I
did.
What was your mentality there?
Yeah, I had saw it on Google Earth, and I saw it on Lake Master Mapping, and I was like, man, this is, it was unique, and it was something that reminded me of a early season tournament that we had fished in Texas on Lake Conroe. I think the first year of the Bass Pro Tour, and there were a lot of fish caught. That was a February tournament. There were a lot of fish caught and similar kind of stuff down there. I thought, man, this kind of lays out similar. I didn't do good in that particular event. Other guys, Edwin Evers won that one, honestly, in kind of a similar type of deal. And I was like, man, this kind of lays out how some of those guys caught them there. I need to check it out one day. And it was my second day of practice in the afternoon. I stopped by there and caught 2 scorables real quick and a short or two. I mean, look, real quick, like 5 minutes. I pull in there, boom, 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 catch 2 scorables, catch another little one or two. I'm like, well, there's some fish in here. And honestly, that was about the best thing I had found as far as a place where I got multiple scoreable bites real quick like that.
Yep.
So, that was where I ended up starting and caught 3 quick and caught some more short ones and actually left about, an hour into the day and fished around the rest of that period and almost all of the second and hadn't caught anything else. And the water in there was really dirty. I'm like, man, I need to go back in there. It was a bright sunny day and no wind. I rolled back in there and had like 5 minutes to fish in that second period and caught a 4-pounder. And fish are like down the skater grass line, fish are boosh, boosh, boosh. I'm like, okay, yeah, it's about to be good. And that third period was just lights out.
That's awesome. So, I mean, strategy plays in, right? If you have this area, you feel like it's going to die out, I mean, you have to almost abandon a little bit to go check other stuff out. But that's very risky in that format of a tournament because you have to be catching bass all the time.
It is, and that's an easy trap to get in. And when I get in that trap is when I have bad tournaments because that thought process of, man, I can't. There's a couple bites in here. I'm not really quite keeping pace with the leaders, but I'm catching some. Should I just stay and try to milk it, or do I go try to find the glory hole? And in our format, with every fish counting, you get buried like that a lot. And I can look back at the events where I've had tough ones, or been like almost make it a decent tournament, and it's those ones where I fish defensively. If I don't fish offensively, I ain't got much of a shot at making a top 10 for sure. And I truly don't have much of a shot, end up even have much of a shot at making the top 10. So, and that's something I've learned about it over the last few years and stuff. And that's, this year's a little bit different, and we're going to get into some of the changes and stuff, I think, in a little bit you'd said, but, or every year up to this year, on the Bass Pro Tour, you fish 2 days, 40 guys in the field, top 20 make the cut, you make the knockout round, 40 guys in it, top 10 make the championship. At Smith Lake a couple years ago, first day I didn't have a good first day. I think I was at 25th or something. that might have been 30th. Like I needed a pretty big day on the second day to come back and make the knockout round. Completely abandoned what I did. Went to the other end of the lake where I had not practiced. Honestly, I never even fished on that end of the lake in Smith Lake in my whole life. I take it maybe one time, but very little experience. Ran way up through there, and I'm fishing. And it was only was it a 2-pound minimum with Smith? I feel like it was only a 1/8. It might have been a 2-pound minimum. Either way, I think my boat official kept count. I had caught right close to 50. And I did not have a scorable yet.
Oh, gosh.
But I'm catching them.
Yeah.
It gets to the third period, and I'm still not caught a scorable bass. I'm in 40th, and I think I might have had 2 hours left. I think I had 2 hours left, and I finally catch one, scorable. And in that last 2 hours, I came back and finished like 17th or 18th place. And that was a tournament where there were a lot of fish were caught, and the weights were pretty good. It was, and it was one of those deals where had I stayed doing what I was doing and tried to be defensively, just had a little better day, ain't no way I make it.
Yeah.
But not, so here's not only what I did. Not only did I make the knockout round, I found them. I had a good knockout round. I made a championship.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I was fishing off offensively and not trying to just salvage and make a knockout round. I was still trying to win the tournament.
Yeah.
And that worked out. Doesn't always, but it did in that particular case.
Yeah. You said what year was that?
I think it was year before last because it was an Ever Fish Counts year.
Yep.
I think it was year before last. Dustin Cannell won that one as well.
Okay.
But I think that would have been in 22. I think is when that one was.
So that's great advice for any of these younger anglers coming into the MLF and trying to make their way down in that path, right?
They need to fish. They all need to fish defensively. Just be happy with a check. No, it truly is. I mean, because in our format, and that's, and I think I've gotten to that point a little bit more honestly as early in my career. Man, just making a check was like I needed to make a check to make it to the next tournament. So thankfully, I'm very thankful, very blessed to be at a place where I'm at, where I can kind of take those risks because, I expect myself to make the Red Crest to do well enough to do that, in the points throughout the year and that kind of stuff. So, it's worth pushing extra most all the time to try to give a shot at winning the tournament or finishing really high versus man, if I was to miss and I finished 26th in this one, or miss a check, whatever, it's like that's not the end of the world. Where before it was like, man, I need to make sure I get a check,
Yep.
So
I feel like too, if you're in this format as well, you almost have to learn that on your own. You can't just you can take it in someone telling you that advice, but if you're not actually living it and learning it yourself, you almost have to take it with a grain of salt, right? You have to almost get in there and get in that situation yourself to be like, okay, now I get it. Now I understand it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. No, it's a very easy thing to say. And even still for me, it's not always an easy thing to do. But yeah, no, it absolutely is.
So, let's, I want to change subjects a little bit because, there's a reason I asked you on. Obviously, it's because you're a professional. You've been in this. You're one of the best in the biz, but you also are part of the tin rig family.
Oh yeah.
Now, unfortunately, you can't run that rig on the tour.
No.
But that is your baby. I know it. I've seen the videos. That's your little baby. Can you talk to us a little bit about your tin rig?
Absolutely.
What are you running?
I can talk to you a lot about it.
I love that.
Yeah, no, I love it. When I'm home fun fishing, that's the boat I hook up to basically all the time. My Nitro, I love that boat. It's an excellent boat, and it does the job for me all year long, all across the country. But I don't go fun fishing in it a lot at home. I just don't. That's that's my work. That's where I earn my livelihood. But when I'm going fun fishing, it's in that tracker, and it's a 1754 Grizzly. It's got a 9065 Mercury jet drive on it.
It's a jet. Okay.
Yeah, it is a jet. Yeah, I've had some that were props. The first couple I had, first couple aluminum boats were tunnel props, but the last couple I've had were jets. Because a lot of the rivers we fish here at home, the one we live on is they're very rocky, shallow rivers. Like with those tunnel prop setups, I could get around and do pretty well anything I wanted to do, but it was a little more risky. And if you did hit the bottom, you're going to damage your prop. Or this one here, I bounce off of stuff pretty good. And it doesn't hurt a whole lot, So now it's had a lot of mods done to it.
Yeah, let's get into that. Let's see.
Yeah,
I'd love to hear about these modifications.
Yeah.
So first, what are you running for a trolling motor on that thing?
Yeah,
it's got a 17-footer, so it's got to be what you said. What was the horsepower on the engine?
65.
It's a 65, so you're going about 30 miles an hour down.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, I'm 30, 31. If you're going downhill, some real fast current, I've seen 34. Down a set of shelves, but you got gravity working for you there.
Yeah.
But yeah, so trolling motor, I've got an Ultrex, 36 volt Ultrex, and then
Jesus.
Oh yeah, because again, fishing in the river and the current and stuff, you need that, and then mods really start right there. The trolling motor foot pan's recessed. You've got the factory hatch just behind that. Okay. Well, then from that point back to the console, we took out the factory live well. So it's like a small 9-gallon, and I fish some local tournaments out of it here and stuff as I'm allowed to. So brought the deck all the way from where it was at the factory all the way back even with the console. Nice. So that center box that was in the front of the boat is open all the way to the nose. So we cut a hole in the back of that, make that the rod box. Okay, so I've got a little factory storage kind of on the sides, but then my rod tips are sticking up the middle of that. The left side over there in front of the passenger, that's a hatch that opens up. It's a dry storage. Live well is a new live well, just cut and put back in place kind of where the factory one was in front of the console, and it's a 20-gallon live well or something. And then come there to the console, raise up, because it actually kind of has a little step down to where you would sit, where the seats would sit, kind of steps down. So we build that up and then add another fuel tank there under like the passenger seat. It has a factory 9-gallon tank, and this one we left that in and I added a 19-gallon tank. So I've got two tanks to add up to 28 gallons or so. It's kind of it right there.
This thing is juiced up.
Oh yeah. It's got two Helix 10s, and then we put pods on it. Of course, the Atlas hydraulic jack plate, I think it's a 4-inch setback. And then that Mercury 65 horse jet on the back of it. I'm trying to think of any. For power, I run 2 Lithium Pros batteries. I think it's an 80 amp hour 12 volt crank battery, and then like the 40 amp hour 36 volt trolling battery. Is what I run on that. If I could use a second one, truthfully, in this boat, in the current and stuff like I do. Back there in the back, I didn't quite have enough room to get a second one. I did end up putting both of the batteries in the back. Weight-wise, with those lithiums, it wasn't a negative. But if I was going to fish out of it really, really seriously, I would have to figure a way to get a little bit more amp hours. If I could get 60 amp hours in there, it'd be enough.
I was going to say, do they make those 36 with 60 or 70 or 80 amp hours?
I think he does. I think Kevin Bennett is the Lithium Pros guy, and he's here in Knoxville. I think he does make one now that it's one battery. It may actually be a little bit taller, but I think he does make one 36 volt that's 50 or 60 amp now. Okay.
Yeah, it's crazy. Anytime anybody asks me about those, I'm always saying I think 50 is too low.
Yeah.
I'm running 2 100 amp Battleborns.
Okay.
But I'm running 2 12s, right?
Yeah.
I'm running the 24.
Right.
And the way I fish, I don't have to charge that thing for a month.
Yeah.
I'm not fishing as much as you are. I'm just, if I'm fun fishing, it's a tournament.
Yeah.
It's a 1-day tournament.
Yeah. And 100 amp hour, I mean, you're not, that's in my bass boat. I run 3 12 volt 100 amp hour. So, you've got 100 amp hour runtime with that 24 volt system, same as what I've got with my 36, but, just with 300 amp hour batteries. And I don't physically think you can run out 100 in a day. When I first started running them, I did a lot of monitoring and had a gauge and stuff. 55 or 60, like sight fishing practice, where I was on the trolling motor, basically on 10 the whole day, looking, marking beds, I'd burn about 55 or 60 amp hours in a day. Mm-hmm. It's about as much as I think you can possibly do.
Yeah. I mean, they're the standard now. I mean, if you're not running lithiums, you should be.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
I've heard, and maybe you can clear some of this up. Some of the rumors are that the cranking batteries, lithium crankers, they haven't really made a turn yet. So the trolling motor battery lithiums are a standard. Mm-hmm. I'm running a strict AGM on my crank.
Yeah.
What is your opinion on the lithiums and how they handle the cranking battery aspect of the game? This portion of the podcast is sponsored by Ben's Tackle Shack, the largest family-owned tournament tackle supplier in the Northeast. If you want to be the best, you need the best. So use Ben's Tackle Shack as your trusted source for the highest quality fishing gear. With brands that include Shimano, Daiwa, Yamamoto, Lowe's, Kitech, Strike King, Berkeley, and Zoom, you'll find everything you need at Ben's. So gear up and go fishing. Visit benstackleshack.com for more information.
Yeah, so I'm going to give a plug here, but it's an honest one, and then the story I feel like will back it up. So, okay. Lithium Pros was the first person in marine lithium. He was in racing and all different kind of stuff, and I'd met with him in early 2000, end of 2011, early 2012, okay. And that was when I put his batteries in my boat. And yes, on the trolling side, man, they were pretty much good from the start. On the crank side, stuff was a little wonky. Cold weather would really set them off. Different alternators, like back in those days, Yamaha alternators he always called them very noisy, like they're what the power they were putting back into the battery, and his wouldn't work with them. Mercury was a good alternator and accepted the power back well, all that kind of stuff. Yes, on the cranking side is where most people have had issues. Yeah. Kevin has what sets his batteries apart from all other brands. The way they manufacture them is a big part of it, and the amount of computer management system that is in his battery is probably what makes it cost a little more, but it's absolutely going to be what makes it last a lot longer and do its job, especially on the crank side, noticeably better. On the trolling side, a lot of other batteries, man, you'd use them 2 or 3 years, you'd probably never really see a lot of trouble out of them. You try to start using them for 5 to 10 years, like you should be able to with lithium, and you're going to probably start seeing some issues. But with his on the crank side, that management system, man, it's really like I've run a lithium cranking battery since 2012, and like I said, they were up until about 14 or 15. I was going to have something go on. Not every year, but occasionally something was going to happen. I've not had an issue in the last 5 that I can, on either side, but 5 or 6 years. And I think this set of batteries, actually, I think this is my 3rd year on this set. I typically, I'll run the same set 4 or 5. I think I ran one set 7 years. So I've only had 2 or 3 sets, actually. Yeah.
That's great. Are there dedicated, so obviously the charging systems for these lithiums can be a bit different depending on what lithium you actually get, right? Mm-hmm. Some guys say you can run a regular AGM battery charger with some of these other lithiums. I don't particularly like that avenue. Yeah. I like to know that if you're reprogramming, if you have lithium batteries, you're going to reprogram your charger to be specific for those lithiums.
Yeah.
Is there a specific program that's also needed additionally for the cranking lithiums?
For what I run, no. I run a Minn Kota 460 PC charger, and it actually, I think this is the second year that it has a lithium setting. Kind of a lithium charge cycle. I've ran that charger for the same amount of time I've been running lithium batteries, and I think it was an AGM setting, was what it was on back then. Okay. But Kevin was always he had mapped out that charger and saw the charge curve and how it does and all that kind of stuff. He's like, it's fine to charge it with, but you need to charge them and then unplug it. Like, don't leave it plugged. Don't do like you used to do, where you just plug your battery, you back your boat in the garage, you plug it up, and you leave it until next week, and then you unplug it and go fishing. He's like, don't do that. He said that you can leave them, way down, and then the night before you're going to go fishing, plug it up, unplug it in the morning and go, or plug it up, let it charge overnight, then unplug it and let it sit. But now with that lithium setting, I think you could leave it. I'm kind of still in that habit to where I'll plug it up, let them charge, and then unplug it.
Okay.
But yeah, that's your whatever battery manufacturer you use. That's absolutely the question to ask them. Say, hey, what charger do you recommend? Yeah. Because hopefully they have done the research to say, hey, you need this charger or that charger or whatever. As the battery manufacturer, they should be able to give you the most knowledgeable answer about their battery and what type of charge cycle that they like best. But for his, that charger works great, and that's why. But that's a big part of why I like the 4 12-volt system. I have one 12-volt crank battery, 3 12-volt trolling batteries. Got that standard Minn Kota onboard charger. It's extremely simple.
Yep, and that way, if you have one battery kick out, you can just change your.
You can jump.
You got an extra terminal to charge them up.
Exactly. You can always jump from something to the other and keep on going.
Exactly. And you touched on it too. Battleborn. When I originally got my Battleborn batteries, I run it I think for 3 years now. They're phenomenal. When I got in touch with, I think it's a professional series, 10 amp 3 bank charger. Okay. When I got in touch with them, they actually were in touch with Battleborn and were able to program based on the Battleborn batteries. Yeah. I don't know what that program is. It could have just been a marketing scheme, but I trusted it enough because they're the experts, right? Yeah. And all I had to say was, I'm running Battleborns. And they'd be like, okay, I'm going to reprogram, these two banks for Battleborn batteries. And,
exactly.
Out of sight, out of mind. It was great.
Yeah.
So that's some more advice for anybody that wants to get into lithiums that aren't into lithiums yet. Mm-hmm. Is definitely utilize the charger guys for their experience and their knowledge.
Absolutely.
Definitely. All right. So, do you use LiveScope on the tracker?
I actually do have it on there. I run all Humminbird, so Mega Live, but I do have it on there, and it's kind of more of an off season, research and using on that boat as well. Obviously it being a jet, most of my fishing in it, I can see the bottom, mm-hmm. So especially if the water's clear. You don't really need it a lot, but I'll crappie fish out of it some, and I'll walleye fish out of it some, and doing some different things with it. So I have some other applications that I'll use that on some, but it again, that way if I'm in a place and wanting to see what something looks like, I can flip that on and kind of get some, get some off season practice in that way too.
Yep. And your wife loves it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. That's it's fun to drop in right here behind the house, and her and I go out and on the river and go get some smallmouth in it. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, that's great. So again, hey, if anybody has a wife that loves, aluminum rigs are perfect for the wives. So. Yeah,
absolutely. And most wives probably like them better because they don't go quite as fast typically, and a lot of women just aren't quite all about as much speed on the water. So that's a great way to go.
Have you changed the seats over, or do you have original seats on that thing?
Yeah, no, I've got it's a little bit bigger seats. So my last one, I actually had two. At some point in time during the season, we had changed out the seats in my Nitro to like a new air ride seat or something that had came out, and so I had two Nitro bass boat seats in my last one. This one just has kind of bigger, soft, cushy boat seats in it. But yeah, my last one actually had nitro seats in that.
That's
one.
hilarious.
Yeah,
That's even more comfortable. Yeah, no
Oh,
wonder
yeah.
she likes it.
Yeah.
Because those older trackers, I've been in a few,
Yeah,
and their original seats are pretty rough on the butt. I'll tell you.
yeah, yeah. They're plastic. Not a whole lot of cushion if you don't beef them up a little bit. But yeah, those
Exactly.
are. Yeah, I upgraded the ones on this.
That's awesome. All right, so I just touched on like the live scope, the Humminbird stuff. Sorry, what'd you call it? It's the
Mega
Humminbird
Live
stuff?
as
It's
well.
the Mega Live. That's it. Yeah. I'm a Lowrance guy, so
Yeah, yeah,
I haven't gotten to the Humminbird side of things yet. I feel like I should.
Yeah.
A lot of people are making great. They're trying to get me into it, and
right.
they're not turning me off. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, yeah.
They're making some good points with it, but
Absolutely.
I've never been a huge electronics guy, and I probably should be. I just started this year utilizing that side imaging a lot more for those offshore smallmouth on the waters that we have up here,
Okay.
which are completely different than the ones down there.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if you knew, I'm in the Northeast. I'm in Boston.
Okay.
So we've got. And I'm far enough away from Champlain and St. Lawrence that I've never fished them, right?
Gotcha.
They're 5-6 hours away,
Yeah.
even though it seems like they would be closer. I
You
looked
would
on
think,
Google Maps today because
Yeah.
I looked at the Phoenix Bass Fishing League schedule, and it's all New York waters and Potomac.
Okay.
And I mapped them out. I'm like, well, I wonder if they're like 3 hours away.
Right.
Maybe I'll jump into a tournament.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, for everybody listening, they're cheap entry fees for
Yeah.
for beginners.
Yeah.
I'm going to say beginners. It's not beginners. I mean, you
No.
got to be a fisherman to be in these things, but
Oh yeah.
$220 for an angler to do a 1-day tournament
Mhm.
could potentially catapult you into your path in MLF. So
Yeah.
it was really cool to go down that rabbit hole today. I enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. And that was, I mean, I got, I was fishing team tournaments and that kind of stuff, but BFLs was kind of where I first branched out at. I'm fishing stuff that was a little bit more regional, not just home waters and stuff right here. BFLs, and it's a great the thing that BFL does that really sets you up and helps you understand what the path ahead kind of looks like is the fact that you've got a boater and a co-angler, and that as the boater, if that's what you go in as the boater, you have all decision-making rights. And those, you can talk to the co-angler and he can give you information and that kind of thing. But the choice is yours. You can listen. You don't have to. And that's, and tournament fishing decision-making is at least 80% of it. So it may be even more than that. So that's the thing that the BFLs really, in my opinion, really help you learn as an angler.
Agree. And I started mine in, what was it? God, I'm aging myself now, but it was back in like 2003 with American Bass Anglers.
Yeah, same deal. Yeah.
That was in Mass, and I started as a co-angler.
Yeah.
I just learned a lot from those guys about tournament fishing, but it was, a short time after that, I was like, you know what? I need my own boat.
Yeah.
The progression is quick. Like, you're not going to be a co-angler for 5, 6, 7 years unless you really enjoy being a co-angler. But
that's right. Yeah.
I like control.
Yeah.
So I wanted to make my own decisions and learn my own way. So
that's my first. I was 16 the first year I fished some BFL, so that would have been like 2000 or 01. I fished a couple when I was 16, and then I think when I was 17. So like maybe 02 was when I fished a whole series, I believe. So it was,
You get into the big leagues quick.
I stepped it up to the string series real quick, like the 2004. Graduated high school in 03, so 04 I think was the first year I fished it was Everstars back then. And which is what the Toyotas are now, but Everstars back then. And then in 2006, fished the FLW series, which was they had that for a few years. It was kind of an in between what the Everstars were and what the FLW Tour was. It was higher entry fees like the FLW Tour, but not as many events. And kind of an in between deal. I fished that in 06, and then the FLW Tour in 07. And fished there for 4 years before I moved to the elites, and then MLF since then. But
that's awesome. Tell you, if I grew up down south, I'd be doing that.
Yeah,
I'd be doing it all.
Yeah, Yeah, no,
made my living up here, and
yeah,
never
Boston's
really
a tough place to tough place to branch out from. I'd have to assume.
It is. And, this trail that I started, back in 15, started in New Hampshire as a small club. And,
Okay.
last year we were doing 60 events in 8 states.
Wow.
And we had 4 states down in the South.
Okay.
Right? So very early on in this, when I first got my first brand new boat, it was an RT-188, a Ranger RT-188, phenomenal boat. That's when I started the trail because I saw the trend. And I saw, aluminum boats, guys need their own avenue.
Yeah.
Because everyone that I'd talked to in the big tournaments that we were doing, like the bass tournaments or the FLW as it was back then, they were very hesitant to go up against all those guys. So I was like, you know what? I've made a bunch of friends, a bunch of contacts. Let's go have some fun on the water. Let's do some aluminum tin rig stuff.
Yeah.
Quickly spread into Alabama was one of the first states because the guy that directed my Alabama trail, his name's Chris Pruitt. He reached out to me on Instagram because he saw the boat I had and he was interested in getting the same thing. We connected, and it's been, a best friend deal for the last 7 or 8 years. I mean, this
That's
guy,
awesome.
I've been down there to Alabama a couple times and fished with him, met his wife and kid.
Yeah. Now,
he's come up here.
Let me ask you this. Do y'all need a translator?
I love it. Yes. And if you get some beers in me, like there are no R's at all.
Right.
Some swears come out, so I'm not drinking tonight. So, but it's I always make fun of his accent. And we joke around about it, but it's great. He's. I feel like I'm part of the family, and obviously he is a part of our family now with everything that's going on. And but I've been down there a few times, and it's a completely different world. It's unbelievable. The first time I was down there, it was the Spro Open on Gunnersville.
Yeah.
07, maybe?
Yeah.
07 or 08. And we blanked. It went to like 20 degrees overnight. It was a huge cold front for the weekend.
Yeah.
We went to Weiss to try to at least catch a fish.
Yeah.
My first goal was, hey, let's catch a spot. Let's catch a bass out of state. Right.
Yeah.
Blanked for the whole weekend.
Man.
It was so, and the fact that you could go to any launch on Gunnersville and it's 40 to 50 trailers deep with bass boats, it's insane.
Yeah.
Like you understand it. Like you hear about it all the time up here, how it's a way of life down there. It's part of the economy. It's a huge resource, but you don't understand it until you're going down there and you see it. Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah. And it doesn't matter if it's a Tuesday or if it's a Sunday or, that's every day of the week.
Yeah. And the next time I went down, it was for, I think it was 2 years ago. I did we had an aluminum fishing series tournament on Gunnersville again. It was in February. It was the first one of the year. So I went down, I rented a bass boat. We were out on the lake pre-fishing for a few days. It was just a tournament fishing getaway for me,
Yeah.
And caught 1 or 2 on Gunnersville, blanked on tournament day. But that was the day that that was the weekend they had a it was all practice. And they had like a 350 boat tournament on Sunday.
Wow.
So we picked like the worst weekend. We didn't know.
Yeah.
It was after the fact, but like everywhere you went, you were behind somebody. And it was just, I'm not used to that. And that stresses me out a little bit on the water because I don't know what the heck to do. Yeah. But I'm a talker, as you probably know. So anyone that I was near, I was just chatting up and having a good time. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But again, it's up here. You don't see that. You go to a ramp up here. Lake Winnipesaukee in New Hampshire is the biggest lake in that area.
Yeah.
There's probably 4 or 5 launches around the whole thing.
Okay.
There's not as many as there are up there. You'd be lucky to see 3 bass boats in a day, unless it's a tournament on the body of water. Yeah. That's how crazy it is. It was just it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is just crazy.
Yeah, and it's a place like Gunnersville's it's a little bit more of an anomaly because it is such a well-known fishery. So I mean it's a major destination. I mean whether it's somebody from Boston or people who live within an hour there or wherever it's such a major destination because of just how phenomenal of a fishery it is, and it's fishing extremely good right now.
Is it?
So it's been and when it does, I mean, it goes through cycles. You know, I mean, it'll come and go. You know, so it definitely does that. But it's yeah, it's been fishing really. I've not been there, but everything I've heard is, you know, I mean, we had a tournament there last year, but I've not been there this year. But yeah, it's been fishing really good.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing Chris is always saying, my Alabama director, he's saying that the weather change, like the weather patterns, is so sporadic because of where it is, that you can't just look at the Weather Channel a week out or 2 weeks out and expect the weather to be the same.
No,
it's always going to change, and that's the difficult part, right? You know, I book a weekend down there. I don't know what weather I'm going to get.
no, yeah, that you could
affects everything.
Yeah, especially, I mean, you look honestly from January to May, which is when most of the best fishing happens. Mm-hmm. You don't know what you're gonna get. You know,
you got to be ready with that boat on any day, you know, any weekday.
Yeah,
just bang out of work and go to the lake. You know?
Exactly. Yeah.
All right, so let me turn a little bit. Let me get on another topic that I wanted to talk about a little bit, because there was an article that I read on Bassmaster from Ish Monroe, and there's been a lot of scrutiny on the professional side of things, and he put it in a phenomenal way. And I want to touch on it because I think a lot of people don't understand it, and they should. And this is what I consider relevant in the bass fishing world today, with today's content and all the stuff going on online. You know, he had responded a little bit to say that, you know, bass fishing doesn't owe us anything. The tourists don't owe us anything.
Yeah.
It is really, in a business world, it is an avenue to promote your own individual business.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And that hit hard, because I know there's been a lot of scrutiny about, you know, where the sponsorship dollars are going, and a lot of guys are struggling to maintain on tour. But, you know, he kind of put things into a great perspective to say, listen, it's what you get out of it. You have to build your own brand and use that as a platform to continue and maintain that brand. Do you have an opinion on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm trying to get my iPad's getting low on battery, so I'm trying to get me a charger before I move it around. But I may have to shift it over here. No, I had read that same article, and Ish put it spot on. I mean, this industry doesn't owe us anything. You know, there's no. It's never been that way. When I got on the FLW tour, my phone didn't start ringing and say, "Hey, we got a $10,000, $20,000, $100,000 deal for you. So just right over here." When I made the Elite Series, it didn't happen then. When guys make the Bass Pro Tour, it don't happen then. Like it's not, if you're, you know, if you have thought that, I'm sorry, you know, that you assumed that was the way that it would, you know, the way that it would go. Actually, hold on just a second. I'm gonna move the table and then I'll be able to plug this in right here. So hold on just a second.
Yeah, take your time. I'll mark this clip so I can edit it later.
Okay. Okay, here we go. Got it. All right. Now it's just that the grandfather clock got covered up. Let me take a step back and tell her that. Okay. All right. Good to go. Okay. So yeah. So it. No. It doesn't. It. You know, just because you make it to the top level of the sport, you know, stuff doesn't automatically happen. I mean, you know, even with major wins, you know, stuff doesn't just. People just don't start knocking the door down trying to get you to, you know, to promote their product and put a big logo on the side of your boat and cash their check. It's not hardly the way it goes. So and there's from even my time of being in it, it has changed, you know, incredibly. I mean, when I first started with FLW, there was social media was just barely getting started, I can remember guys, having a Facebook page and being like, I ain't doing a Facebook page. I mean, my wife's got one. I ain't messing with that stuff, I
Yeah.
mean, that's
Did you ever have a MySpace page? Remember those?
I not a fishing one. I don't even know that I ever had one ever. No, I don't. I mean, no, I don't think I did. But yeah, it was. I that wasn't why I got into fishing. I got into fishing because I wanted to go fishing. And the TV was what there was, or magazine. Like that was how you earned your keep with a sponsor. I mean, making something on TV, or working with writers and having magazine articles, and then websites became the rage. Who's got the best website, and how many clicks are you getting on your website, and this kind of stuff. And then now it's shifted to where social media is the thing with it is that you can kind of control in some ways how much media value you have, how much you're posting, how you build your following, because you can look at people who are extremely successful, who are tournament fishermen and have, I mean, just be frank, marginal tournament results, or guys who are very good tournament anglers and do marginally on social media and that kind of stuff,
Right.
and and don't have as big an impact for their sponsors, and therefore don't get the kind of checks that guys who work harder at that side of the game are able to receive because of just strictly their amount of media value. So it is definitely a different, way different climate than what I got into it at, back in 2007 for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I know, I mean, you're an anomaly. You've always been top of the sport, and I want to phrase this correctly, right?
Okay.
So you've been able to maintain with winnings, right? Because you do very well every year. You've got a win, 4 wins in 4 years. That enables you to sustain and maintain your business, your brand. Some other guys aren't as fortunate, right? So you almost see those guys having to adapt a little bit to find other areas of revenue, right? And that's where potentially everybody has this, I guess, mentality that they have to start creating that content to build that following, to then promote their sponsors a little more with that type of stuff. Because most deals now are structured that way, right? It's, you got to promote through your social media, you got to post, this many times a week, this many times a day, or just try to get into that algorithm where you're that's where all your promotion is. And sponsors love that type of reach.
Yeah.
Are you seeing that struggle with some of the guys on the MLF tour? And how do you combat that?
Yeah.
To keep everybody in a positive light.
Yeah.
I know what you're doing now. I love the faith stuff that you're doing. It kind of helps bring positivity to each event with the Toledo Bend Church and the Fishing Church.
Yeah.
How do you spread positivity to some of the guys that are don't have the finishes that they probably should, since they're better, they're good anglers.
Yeah, yeah, and I would say, touch on one thing there at the start, that you mentioned about that, that I've had consistent high finishes and stuff, and for the last several years, absolutely, the last few years on the Elite Series, and most of the years on the Bass Pro Tour, I have been very blessed with a lot of that. But starting off with FLW, and my first, I did win Rookie of the Year that first year on the Elite Series, but then after that, I had some top tens and made the Classic every year, but I didn't have I didn't have any. It was 2016 before I won an Elite Series, so it was kind of at that point 16, 17, 18, really 18 or 19 with the Classic, and kind of from there forward is when really feel like I've hit my stride as far as a lot of high finishes or wins and that kind of stuff. So it wasn't certainly always that way, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But yeah, for you definitely do see within our league, and I think you see it on bass as well with the group of anglers there. You see, a group of guys who are really high performers on the water, in the tournaments, and the majority of them also work really hard off of it. So that success, they're able to, both of them kind of feed each other. You know, their high tournament wins and the coverage they get there push their own personal brand, but then they're working so hard at their own personal brand that, you know, that traction that pushes over, they're able to take and do more with it. You know, and you see that, but I do think that, you know, some of the guys who are still, you know, pretty high performers aren't doing as much as that on the personal side as they need to be, to really capitalize on, you know, on that traction they're getting on the tournament side. Man, they're not pulling it over quite as strong as they could for some guys. And then other guys are, you know, working really hard on the personal side, but don't have that bleed over quite as much from the, you know, from the lack of finishes. But
yeah,
they're working so hard on that personal side. Once they get some of that bleed over will be, you know, I think will be really strong for them. So,
I agree.
you know, but you know, you see that on both sides. I think you see the guys who are working really hard, off the water, or you know, just in their own platforms and stuff. And I, you know, I feel like the guys that I compete against on the Bass Pro Tour, I feel like more of our guys take that seriously than probably a lot of other places. You know, okay. I think, I mean, Scott Martin fished at FLW for a long time. I fished against him back when I was fishing there. He was the first, to my knowledge, to really take that, especially on the YouTube side, yep, as a professional, and really push it and capitalize on it, and has done the most with it by far.
Yes. Yes.
And
I agree.
You know, I mean, his following on YouTube alone would eat about the next 5 biggest people, you know, combined. You know, so that's, you know, I think his, you know, prior to this year, you know, and like, you know, like a Ben Milliken or someone like that who's come on as a pro, but already has a big, you know, big following there. So that's, to me, Scott was kind of the, you know, the trailblazer in that, of already being an established pro, had a TV show, you know, had all the other things going on, but really saw that need, and, you know, was able to do a lot with it.
Yeah, I don't know if he sleeps.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. Don't think so.
Yeah, and
nobody wants to run out of power when they're on the water. There is a better way. Introducing the Charge Marine Power Management Station from Power Pole. Power Pole Charge.
You know, for me personally, I always saw an opportunity with this trail to build content and to create content.
Yeah.
But then as I get into the weeds with it, I get super stressed about it because I don't know what I want to do with the content.
Right.
You know, I'm a creator. You know, I created this brand. I'm a musician on the side, so you know, I'm definitely have an artistic side of me. But I was also, you know, a college hockey player. You know, so I have that competitive edge as well.
Yeah.
So when I look at creating content for this trail, you know, podcasting is pretty easy. You know, because it gained traction pretty well with some of the guys that I've had conversations with. You know, and I'm expanding it here now with the video stuff. But on the water stuff, I have to, like, I get so stressed about, I just want to fish.
Yeah.
I don't want to have 15 cameras in my boat.
Right.
Also, I'm secretive.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, there's a line you gotta tote.
Yeah.
And I'm working with 1,000 Instagram followers. You know, you guys are at such a higher level. I can only imagine how stressful it is to think about all the video content you guys have to do. Are you guys required to film all competition days?
Yes. Yeah. That's in our rules. Yeah. Yeah. You have to have a POV camera running, and that's for you know, that's on a rule side. You know, I mean, we obviously have an official in the boat with everybody, but if there was ever a discrepancy on anything, they can go back and pull the footage, and you know, there was a sign there that said no fishing, and you went beyond it, and your boat official didn't see it. You know, anything to that sort that could have been, you know, something that wasn't caught. But yeah, no, and I'm not saying that ever happened. But you know, I mean, that's just you know, it's a safety measure that everybody has to run a camera.
From an organizational point of view, I love that rule.
Yeah,
Right, because there's no questions.
yeah.
If there is a question, you have the answers
Mm-hmm.
at your disposal.
Mm-hmm.
So, is it your responsibility to maintain cameras and camera batteries? And what's the repercussions if, say, your battery dies on a hot day?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think if there was if there was a legitimate issue, like they don't tell us, go back there and check it every 5 minutes and make sure,
Right.
if there's more than 5 minutes of footage, they said it's not like that, but we do have 2-period breaks, and I mean, there's no reason it shouldn't miss out on running for 2 straight periods, because you've got a break in between
That's true. That's
to make sure that something didn't get messed up. So, it is. But that is a unique thing with ours, of having those breaks, that you should be able to check on it at least then.
Yeah, I didn't think of that. That's a good point. And I only know that rule because a buddy of mine that fishes in New Hampshire just made the Elite Series.
Okay.
So Tim Doobie, give him a little shout out.
Yeah.
New Hampshire Bass Nation. He went down and fished and finished second, I think, at one of the regionals.
Okay.
Which earned him a berth, because I think the winner had already gotten an Elite Series berth, so it moved bad.
That's right.
So he, I was talking to him this weekend, and he mentioned that rule, and I was curious as all hell, because he ended up going out and getting tons of SD cards, because he's overcompensating. He's like, I don't know what's going to happen if I don't have the footage, so I want to make sure that I have it all.
Yeah.
So I just found it to be a pretty cool rule from an angler point of view. Are you allowed to use that footage, or is that footage property of MLF?
No, it's and you're supposed to. I believe the rule states something about, like, you're supposed to keep it until the next event. So like, you keep those SD cards, and if the next event, if they've not requested at that point, you can plug them back in your camera and format them and go again, kind of thing. So, in which on my YouTube channel, I use all that footage for my In the Boat series that I do. So it's, I'm doing it. I've been doing it anyway. So it really was, and doing it with a chest cam and a rear cam. So I've got it, I've got it covered 2 different ways. So let's
certainly do.
It's
get you some scopers.
That's right.
I was all over it, man. That was awesome.
Yeah.
That was funny. A buzz bait in February. That was pretty sweet. That was pretty sweet.
Probably not doing that in New Hampshire much.
No. February, we're walking on the water.
Right.
Well, not this time. We got 50-degree weather right now.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's pretty crazy. We're in the middle of like ice season, and everywhere's got like 2 or 3 inches. It's not enough to ice fish unless you go way north. It's pretty. We're struggling up here, but I was hoping to get on the hard water this weekend, but it's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
But all right, so let's get into something that I'm pretty particularly excited to talk about.
Okay.
Because it directly affects AFS, and we're looking for your kind of preview of what could potentially come with our Lake Chickamauga event that we're having in early March 9th and 10th. We're heading down to Chickamauga out of Chester Frost. We're doing a big 2-day event with 35 boats max. Registration's open now. But what do you think is going to play? What areas do you think are going to happen? What's the river going to be looking like in early March?
Yeah, early March. And that's your time of year where you could have snow, or you could have 75, and you could have both in 2 days. So you never really know then. But generally speaking, things are starting to happen. By the time you get to early March, and those fish they're starting to move up a little bit. But most years they're not going to be spawning. I don't mean that by any means. Those fish there, you're looking at first week of April is about when it starts. First, second week of April is kind of when those fish start spawning. So don't think that quite yet. The water should still be low. Barring that we've had any kind of crazy major rain or anything. So the lake should still be down pretty much at winter pool.
That's 7 feet, I think, right?
Yeah, it'll fluctuate a little bit between 5 and 7. It's kind of where that'll bounce. But yeah, somewhere in that range. With the water with the water down like that, that the upper end, and I'm calling that really from, especially from Dayton upriver from there, is very limited. It truly is, because with water that low, you don't have hardly anything in much of those backwaters. If you find them on that main river and the current's doing whatever you need it to do, for me personally, that's not a summertime kind of deal where if it's off in the morning and they generate in the afternoon, the fish really start biting kind of thing. I like it to be steady that time of year. That way you can kind of figure out what the fish are doing and kind of run that, run a pattern or something like that. But if you can figure out where those better quality fish are set up upriver, if they're on steep banks or if they're on flats, if they're on stumps, you can certainly catch some big ones because they don't have a lot of places to be. That's the nice part about it up there, is once you get up there, they ain't gonna be way back in the backwater unless they got feet. So you don't have to worry about that.
Right.
But you start getting down the lake, you get around the mouth of Hiwassee and that kind of stuff, and you start getting into some flats a little bit, and kind of the further down the lake you go, the more flats and stuff you have. But it is pretty limiting, honestly, with the water down like that, just where those fish can be. And the thing that you'll see is that it don't take much to hold them. Man, a little rock run out, a stump, a lay down. It just don't take much for them to set up on. So
yeah,
that's a big thing then. For baits for me then, I'm number one. I'm probably thinking a lipless crankbait.
Yep,
probably be my number one. A shallow running crankbait, most likely a flat side. OG Slim, OG Tiny, those would be some really key ones for me then.
Yeah, I think we're bringing about 20 frit sides.
Yeah. I mean, flat sided stuff. Alabama rig, if y'all can use those, certainly can be good then. And then if you get kind of a cooler snap, two things: if you get a cooler snap, or if the water just is clear, a jerk bait or a single swim bait, whether that's a 4-inch one or a 5 or 6 inch one. A single swim bait can definitely get you a bite then. That would be kind of my line of thinking, and still a jig or a shaky head. If you need to catch one dragging something, that kind of be your deals.
Yeah, I mean, my strength is more the power slinging.
Mm-hmm.
And if I have to set up and slow down a little bit with finesse, it's going to be, because I'm from the Northeast, it's going to be a drop shot or an Ed rig.
Yeah.
But I'm struggling with, because I have to send all my stuff down there before. I can't put it all in tackle, so I got to send it to my buddy, and I'm starting to pack it up right now, and I'm stressing because I have to bring all the baits that I'm comfortable with that I know I could probably get at the tackle stop down there,
right?
But I'm not sure. I'm not.
Yeah.
So I got to make sure that I have it all. I have like 20 different spinnerbaits. I don't need that many, but I'm bringing them anyways because I have 5 different colors.
Yeah.
I'm bringing crankbaits that go anywhere from 10 to 30 feet. I got those 6 Sense DD20s or something like that go 25 feet or something.
Yeah.
Just in case we get on a shell bed that's in 20 feet.
Yeah.
It's a lot, but I love this stuff. It's a good stress. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the game.
That's right.
That's the game. Go throw what you want to throw and see if you can catch some fish on what you want to throw.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
So I'm excited about it. It should be a good event.
It's a great time of year to be there. Great time of year to be there for sure.
That's what I hear. And have you ever been to the Chester Frost Ramp?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
So do you know anything about the area that they have for the tournaments? Because there's a small shack there that they allow the tournaments to come out of, and they've got a tube that they can turn on that allows you to release the fish right back into the water.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So it's really cool. I have them down there. I'm going to have to scout it out when I'm down there. But we got the permit all squared away, and everybody's been really, really helpful down there with getting me set up for running this event.
That's awesome. So y'all going out of Chester Frost for that? Yeah. No, that's a good, and that's that end of the lake down there historically is where more big fish are caught, especially that time of year. From just a little bit below there to the next 5 or 7 miles upriver. That seems to be where, that's where a lot of stuff gets won, honestly, all year round. But especially that time of year, just because it is, like I said, I like that upper end of the lake. because it is shallower and stuff, but it is pretty limited up there as to what you have to fish just with the water that low.
What do you think the water temperature will range at, or is that kind of a loaded question?
Yeah, I mean you should be in the 50s. You should be. I mean if it's cool, we've been cooler. You should be looking at 50, 51. But you should be. If I was going to say right now, I'd say between 50 and 54 should be what your primary. If you get a major warm trend, you may see some 55, 58 back in some pockets or that kind of stuff or something, but.
Are there any warm water feeder creeks? If there's 55-degree temperature, I mean, I'm going to throw a plopper. That's go to. But if it doesn't get up there,
none that come in right. Nothing that comes to mind right away. But there's upriver of Chester Frost just a little bit. One thing you will notice. You go upriver of Chester Frost and you go up and it makes a big bend around to the left. There's a nuclear plant there on the left. Okay, so it has a discharge out in the middle of the river that actually warms the water 3 or 4 degrees, right in the river channel. So it's always, you get below that, it's always 3 or 4 degrees warmer than the whole bottom end of the lake.
Gotcha.
So you go above it. It's always a little bit cooler. And I with those Florida strains, honestly, I think that's why that in the lake generally has a little bit bigger fish.
Okay. Do you think smallmouth will play?
No, very little. Yeah, very, very little. I mean, the only way that time of year, and really the only population of smallmouth is all the way up below Watts Bar Dam. So that's a good time of year for them. I mean, it is a good time of year for them, but it's
you got to get there.
You got to get there, and there's not a whole. It's not a whole bunch of them, truthfully.
How far is the ride from Chester Frost to that bend in Dayton?
To Chester Frost to Dayton, you're looking at about
in a tin rig.
Yeah. So you're looking at about a 30-mile run.
Okay.
So if you're running 45, you're looking at a 45-minute run or something. If you're running 45 miles an hour or something like that.
Yeah, I'm just excited to get down there. It's new water for me. It's it's a bucket list item for me to get down there and just fish one of these bigger bodies of water. Yeah,
no, you'll enjoy it.
It should be good. I'd invite you, but I know Red Crest is like 2 days before, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's right after. It's the 14th. I think I'll be practicing for Red Crest.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, it's I'd like to be there and poke around in my little 30-mile-an-hour tracker. It'd be fun.
Yeah, so let's talk about the rest of the season.
Okay.
Let's break it down. So you're at Sandy Cooper next in South Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
That is actually coming up in a couple weeks.
Yeah, it's gonna be real soon.
So I assume it's going to be similar fishing to what you just went through. Ish.
I hope not completely, but just to be frank. But yeah, no, it. I don't know. The first major tournament I ever won was on Santee Cooper. It was in April. Called All Those Fish Sight Fishing. That was in 2008. 2008.
Okay.
It was a string series, EverStart, Toyota, all the above, whatever you want to call them now. But but yeah, that was one of those, and it was a 4-day cumulative. I had 94 pounds for 4 days, so
very nice,
pretty awesome place. But it won't be sight fishing, won't be spawning. It'll be that's one of the kind of depend on what the weather is. That's probably won't be spawning yet, but if we got really good weather, there could be some close. But Santee's not the Santee it was when I fished it back then. From what I've been told, it doesn't seem to have quite the numbers of fish, that it used to, but it does still have some really big ones. So I'll be
getting pressure a lot now.
No, it's not really been pressure. I don't know if it's a habitat deal or what why the population seems to be, seems to not be quite as good as it used to be. Honestly not sure why that is, but be a big one. So, maybe a kind of deal where you're happy to catch 5 or 7 in a day. It may be a pretty good day, but five of them may weigh 26 pounds.
Yeah, and I know the answer, but everyone asks, is live scope going to be a factor, right? It's always a factor. It just depends on who's using it.
Right.
Yeah.
And is it a factor like Toledo Bend where 10 of the 10 we're using it, or is it is it a factor where 4 of the 10? And that's
right.
That's that's what the question is anymore. It's just how many people in the top 10 will be primarily relying on it, because somebody is going to be. It doesn't matter if it's at Santee Cooper, if it's at Chickamauga, or if it's at the Potomac River. I mean, somebody's going to be using it that's in the top 10. Right. Is it 1 or 10? So it'll definitely play in some capacity. I think the colder it is, the more it will play. So kind of depending on what our weather ends up being for that week. It is kind of, I think, will be the determining factor of if it's 2 of the top 10 or 9 of the top 10.
Yep. So do you think that there's going to be some form of like a turn of the tides? And let me explain that a little bit. So as forward-facing sonar gets more and more popular and more people are using it, the offshore game is going to be everybody's deal.
Right.
Do you think there's going to be this time when your bank beaters are going to start winning events because those fish are now getting less and less pressure than the offshore ones?
On one hand, I want to say absolutely. And you would reason to think that, absolutely. These fish that are up here aren't getting messed with a lot. Those fish out there getting their heads beat in, and maybe they'll swim up here to the bank, that kind of thing. Yeah. From what I've seen so far, like I honestly thought we would have already seen some of that, more so than I feel like we have.
Okay.
And it concerns me that it's not going to happen, because it's like those fish that do eventually come to the bank have already been caught. So like they're harder to catch already than they were to start with, because they've already been fished for so much more. That's honestly my concern, because they, it's like they're already getting educated before they even get to me, kind of thing.
Okay. All right.
So on the one hand, it's like, man, they're just going to push them up here, and it's going to eventually flip, and that'll go back. Man,
I'm hoping that's the case.
Yeah, because I want to think that these fish that are up here on the bank are these fish that are always up here on the bank.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact of the matter is, they're probably fish that come and go, just like those fish out there come and go. So it's like it is with any of it. It's being in the right place at the right time. And these fish that are up here on this bank now, because the wind's blowing on it, were fish that were sitting out here over open water that were getting targeted when it was calm.
Yeah.
So, they may have slid up here, but man, they ain't any easier to catch.
Yeah, that's a good point. Good point. Yeah, we're not seeing, at least in my trail. I don't know about the bigger trails, because I used to fish a lot of the bigger events before I did the trail stuff myself. Building this brand, so I spend most of my fishing tournament days on the water for AFS. I don't see live scope being a player yet.
Yeah,
like it's almost like it hasn't reached up here yet in the small local club scene. Probably because if you're fishing one of our tournaments, you win in $300. It's not enough to worry about live scope in the first place.
Right.
I'm sure if I went to Champlain or St. Lawrence and fish some of these bigger events, live scope's obviously going to be a huge deal.
Absolutely.
Which is why I got to delay a little bit. I want to get a new boat. I want to start learning that stuff. And how much time on the water did you have to spend before you were actually comfortable with live scope?
I don't know that I'm still comfortable. I'm comfortable with it. I am comfortable with it at this point. And on the knockout day at Toledo, I abandoned what I was doing because I was so far behind. I was like, I can't catch up. And I actually loaded up what we could trailer that day. I loaded up, went to the south end, and just went scoping because I knew that was my only chance to get back in the tournament, truthfully. And I went down there and immediately started catching fish, a lot of them small. And I actually made that comment to my boat fish. I'm like, I don't think I'm the world's worst scoper. Like I can get my bait on. I can see a fish. I can get my bait on screen. I can catch fish with it, So I'm comfortable with it. But it took it did take it took a considerable amount of time. I don't want to say I know it was a week spent with it, or it was a month spent with it, or just exactly how many days it was. But yeah, it was a considerable amount of time. I'd say within a week, I'd consider myself, C plus efficient with it. I've been, like panning them around. Okay, there's something. Okay, I got my bait on the screen. Within a week's time, I was fluid enough with that. And part of that, like the first time I ever saw it in use was with Mark Rose crappie fishing, and Mark initially, I mean, he was somebody who got pretty good with it pretty quick, largely because of crappie fishing. So watching him, that was interesting, and it was funny watching him back then crappie fish with it was almost identical to watching Jacob and Dustin on the live show when I was driving home the other day. Yeah. And this is the part of it I'm talking about. Mark, he'd pan over there, he'd see a crappie at 35 feet, he'd throw his little jig over there, he'd swim it, he'd get it to it, it would go past it by. I mean, it looks like it's that far on the screen, right? It's that far in real life, and the fish would turn and start trailing behind it. But it's this in real life, it's this far behind it.
Yeah.
The fish would start trailing, he'd reel it in and go to the next one. He wouldn't even wait to see if the fish was going to speed up to it.
Yeah.
It was already that far behind it. It was trailing it.
He knows. That's experience. Yeah.
That ain't going to bite. He'd reel up, throw to the next one. It's exactly what Dustin and Jacob would do. That if they got it to that fish, and that fish would ease behind it, just reel that stuff in and go to the next one. Like, I mean, knowing it's a bass, it's like, and where I'm still sucked in to be like, oh man, maybe he's going to come get it. He's coming to get it. He ain't. Just reel it in. He ain't coming.
Yeah.
So that's the level of, that's the different mindset and just the experience level with it to know exactly what you see, because that time and that efficiency with it to know that, hey, I just need to move on to the next one. And the deal is you may come and circle back through that area and unknowingly see that same fish, catch it at a different angle, trigger it like that.
Yep. And for me, if I'm thinking about how to use front facing, I would take the approach where you'd almost have to find different species all the time to understand what you're looking at, right?
Yeah.
How they're set up versus what they actually are. So you'd actually have to catch some of these fish, maybe put on, if you think they're perch or you think they're crappie, put on a smaller bait instead of just targeting bass all the time,
right? To
understand running up and being efficient about a school and saying, that's not bass, I have to go.
Right. Yeah. No,
that would be the experience on the water that I would look for if I'm spending every day, every hour on live scope trying to learn.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. And that's, they didn't show it a ton, but Toledo has a lot of catfish in it. And there were a lot of catfish caught that looked just like bass, set up like bass, bite like bass, and then they don't fight like bass, and they ain't a bass. But, there was a lot of catfish caught. It didn't matter if it was on a jerkbait, on a minnow, on whatever. There were lots and lots of catfish caught, because of, because they were set up just like bass. Thankfully they'd bite the same thing, so that way you didn't waste a lot of time jacking around with them. But
that's true. Yeah.
I went over to Rayburn on one of my off days and caught one of the biggest blue cats I've ever caught, probably 40+ pounder. It's a big one.
That's fun.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah. Now it looked big, so I probably should have known that it wasn't a bass, but yeah.
I still throw at it because I love everything.
Yeah, you want to see what it is. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I think I've caught one blue, and that was, I actually did catch it in the Spro tournament. So we abandoned the Spro. We called the director. We're like, we're done.
Yeah.
But I needed to catch a fish. We found all this bait, and I started throwing drop shot under the bait, and my buddy thought I caught an absolute tank. And it was a blue cat, and I was like, oh,
yeah,
new species off my list.
Yeah, exactly. Fun. Yeah.
But,
yeah.
So I know we've gone almost an hour and a half here. I guess outside of fishing, what you don't get a lot of days off, but when you do, what do you like to do?
If it's a Sunday, we're going to church. That's certainly something that my family and I, we're thankful for Jesus Christ, and want to spend our, any Sunday we've got opportunity at church, and that's something that we definitely enjoy. Just spending time with them because what off time I've got. I like to spend it around here with them. Hunting. I've developed a passion for hunting, and my son enjoys a lot of that with me as well. So awesome. Turkey season's coming up; it's not too far away. That's certainly something we look forward to.
How old is your son?
He's 12.
12.
Yeah.
Has he got a turkey yet?
Yeah.
He has? Okay.
He's killed several actually. So
very nice.
Yeah.
What's on his bucket list for game?
Man, he's killed some deer. He's killed some ducks. He's killed some turkeys. A elk is something that he would, neither one of us have been elk hunting. I think a elk would probably be a major one on his list. Yeah, if you were going to ask him. Yeah,
that'd be cool. You guys should do. My main director is also a moose guide.
Okay.
So if you guys are ever up in this area,
get
you in touch with him. He'll get you on some moose.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah.
I'd love to do that type of stuff. I don't have my gun license yet.
Okay.
My wife would love to do that. She loves that stuff.
Yeah.
She tells me she could field dress a deer.
Yeah.
But she'll do it in heels.
Well, that's as long as she's got a dress, that's fine. Yeah.
Is Jenny a hunter?
No,
not
at all. No. She says she didn't marry a hunter either. I never did. I never hunted growing up. So, it's something that I've grown into in the last few years.
Now, does she get to travel with you a lot for the tournaments?
No, they pretty much come to one tournament in the summer each year. It's pretty much what they get to come to. So, maybe Red Crest or something else.
I was going to say, yeah, Red Crest.
But yeah, that's about it.
It's crazy. You mentioned Red Crest, and for people that don't know, Red Crest is kind of the championship. It's the Bassmaster Classic and the MLF side.
That's right.
With a $300,000 purse for first prize. And I'm surprised it doesn't get more promotion.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm just not looking for it.
Yeah.
Like, I want to see it, and I just don't see enough of it. Like, I'll catch the clips on Instagram and all this other stuff. I know when it is now, because I look for it, and now I'm going to be watching it.
Yeah.
But, do you think there is an opportunity to promote it a little more?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, I definitely do. Absolutely.
Because they have the expo, so they set it up very similar, but it's for the I wrote it down. I got it. Hold on. It is 50 pros qualify. You get the top 39 from the BPT from the previous year. Mm-hmm. You have the 23 Red Crest champion. That was Brian Thrift last year. Mm-hmm. You got the 6 winners from the Invitational season.
Yeah.
The Invitational Angler of the Year, the 23 All-American winner, the Toyota Series Championship winner, and then you sprinkle some college championship winners in there as well.
Yeah.
And that gets you to your top 50.
Yeah.
That just sounds like a fun event.
Yeah. And this is, and I'll be honest, this is our first year with that expanded field. It has been, the first Red Crest was actually only 30 anglers. It was expanded from then on to 40. And they came strictly from the Bass Pro Tour. This was the first year that it expanded to 50, but with people from outside of the Bass Pro Tour, so from those other qualifiers. And that's, on one hand, it's like, man, it's the Bass Pro Tour Championship. Should it have, people who aren't Bass Pro Tour anglers in it? But it's our biggest event in Major League Fishing. It should have some other people in it, and that adds a lot of other ties to it. That gives a lot of other places for avenues for people to come. It gives you pull fans from places where you would not have otherwise. Yes. Like there's a lot of good that comes out of having those those qualifiers from other places other than strictly just here's a championship of our best guys. Put this little field in there and see what they do. So I'm excited that it's got those additional qualifiers in it this year. And I fished 8 classics. They all had federation guys and Bass Nation guys, and and different qualifiers in those from different avenues, and that's what makes it the classic. So that's I'm glad that we that we've done that with Red Crest.
I agree. The other one that I love, I love it a little more than the Red Crest, is the heavy hitters, only because I love big bass, right?
Yeah.
And that almost, from a content point of view, would be phenomenal. Like, I've seen a lot more of that stuff than I have the Red Crest stuff, only because I love the big bass stuff. That's kind of the stuff that tends to go a little bit more viral.
Yeah.
Because you're getting big bites. People want to see those big bites.
Absolutely.
And for the guys, the people that are listening that don't know what the heavy hitters is, it's your biggest bass in each of the 7 events from the previous year gets cumulative weight, and it's the top 30 teams.
So, top 30 anglers, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Sorry, anglers. I'm in a team environment with that. But you get an automatic debut for the heavy hitters because you're a previous winner. So you get into it this year, right?
No, so funny story. So I won in 22.
Yes.
That's when I won heavy hitters. You do not get an automatic rebirth. You have to qualify in every year. Okay. I did not qualify for the 23. So I won. Didn't fish the one the very next year. Red Crest, you do. When Red Crest, you get automatically back in. Heavy hitters is not that way. You got to qualify in every single year. So I won in 22. Didn't make it in 23, but qualified back in for 24. So So
don't read everything. Don't listen to everything you read, I guess.
Yep. So you
started off great this time with Toledo Bend with that 6-pounder. So you're already on your way for next year.
Yeah, should have a decent start there. That one that did bite a buzzbait was 512. So I think that should be an above average. It's funny, you look at it and you're like, oh man, that's a big one. And considering where we were, it was better than average, but not by a whole lot necessarily. So
yeah, there were a couple 7s and 8s, right? I thought
and an 11.
Was there, who caught the 11?
Cliff Crochet.
Oh God.
Yeah, he had an 11. I think Mark Daniels might have had the second biggest with one almost 9. There were some other 8. There were several 8s. The 512 ain't going to be in the top 10, but I think it'll be in the top 30. So I don't think I'll have ground to make up, but I didn't dig myself a hole right out of the gate.
True. And, Alton Jones Jr. is a killer on those things. He's been doing really well with the heavy hitters.
Yeah.
I see that all the time.
Yeah, no doubt.
But yeah, so how you feeling for the rest of the season? I mean, you guys don't make a huge trip up here.
Mm-hmm.
The stage 5, 6, and 7 is almost kind of your Eastern tour.
Yeah.
Ending in New York.
Yeah.
How do you prepare for kind of that Eastern swing at the end of the year? Obviously it kind of depends on how you do for the first, handful of events. You have to go big or kind of be safe. But how do you prepare?
Yeah, those, I'm excited about those because, of course, in St. Lawrence, I fished several times. Fished a couple times on Bass Pro Tour and fished it a handful of times on the Elite Series, or a couple times on the Elite Series. But the 2 before it, the James River and the Chowan River, 2 I've never been to. And those are our first tidal fisheries on the Bass Pro Tour that we've been to. So, I've had some okay finishes on tidal fisheries. Generally speaking, they're not my best, but I've heard good things about the Chowan, especially. So I'm excited to go there just because it's new, and none of our field I don't think has ever even been there. Maybe one guy or something here or there, but very little out there about it as far as professional events. So I'm excited, and honestly, going to rivers that time of the year, typically places we're going in June and July are going to be deeper water, offshore type tournaments, and obviously the St. Lawrence will be, but those 2 will not. So that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, and I feel like you're very confident with the river fishing because you have a tin rig that you fish on the river all the time. So.
Yeah, my only way I could be more confident is if I was taking it.
There you go.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, listen, I know I could talk. I want to talk to you for another 2 hours. I know I do. It's been an hour and a half. I really, really appreciate your time. Especially since, I'm really a small brand, I'm not a huge trail. I'm trying to do more of the podcasting stuff because I just love talking to people about the industry. I'm very passionate about that part of it. So getting someone of your stature in the industry it's a pleasure. It was an honor for me. So I really appreciate you. And we really wish you luck on the rest of the tour. We'll be following along. That's
Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it. Yeah, I can. Our shared passion of aluminum boats is something that I thoroughly enjoy and enjoy my time spent in it, and certainly it's encouraging to see what you're doing with it, and I hope you keep pushing forward, and hope it keeps growing and doing well. So let's fishing out aluminum boats is the big thing about it, and you mentioned it about the trail and stuff in Alabama and other places, and that guys can be, they look at the shiny fiberglass boats and feel a little bit intimidated. Man, I love the fact that it is an aluminum only trail, but man, I would encourage any of those guys that are fishing it. I mean, absolutely fish those. But man, don't be intimidated against whatever you're putting in fishing against, because it's more about what's up here than what you're riding in. So
I agree.
If anything, I think with the way fishing is anymore, an aluminum boat, a lot of times, I think the way it drafts less water typically, and man, there's a lot of advantages actually to an aluminum boat over fiberglass in a lot of situations. So they've all got their pluses, they've all got their minuses. I agree. Encourage guys to be confident in it, and just get out there on the water, enjoy it.
I agree, and I love the fact that part of me has positioned this trail a little bit more for the business end of it and the generational aspect of it, where you've got kids that are going to come into this sport or want to get into this sport. They're not going to have $120,000 to do, to put a whole fiberglass rig together.
Yeah.
I think that the aluminum boat trend and the aluminum boat business is going to be their avenue to get into the sport easier and find their tournament confidence.
Yeah.
Right. And I want to be that trail.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can expand it as much as I want to right now, because I'm a dad. I got a full-time job. I'm a musician. I do this.
Yeah.
I'm a coach for 3 different sports. Like, I do a lot. My wife would say I do too much. Right.
Yeah.
But just knowing that at least in the Northeast, I can start expanding it to where hopefully I'll be attracting a lot more of that younger generation. Where they can get into a boat, for less out of their pocket.
Yeah.
And, get into the sport and grow the sport a little more.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And that, the thing I've always heard about the Northeast, and we'll wrap it up after this, but, with a lot of our lakes in the South, they are bigger lakes. I mean, Gunnersville or Chickamauga or whatever. And, a lot of those, a lot of guys in aluminum boats may be a little bit intimidated by some of that bigger water down here. Would be to segment off a part of the lake of, hey, you can't put in a run 40 miles away. So that, you kind of confine it. And so it's a tournament and everybody's on the same playing field. But, hey, that's kind of your all's waters up there. They're doing that on their own, but you kind of do that down here. And, hey, here's your zone. That's what it is.
I agree, man. Well, listen, I'll let you get to bed or whatever it is you do. It's pretty late here. It's 9:30.
Yeah, same here. Yeah, about bedtime. So go take the kids in, and hope you have a good evening.
Thank you, Watt. I really appreciate it, man.
Yeah,
thanks so
Chris.
much. Can I ask you a favor?
Yeah.
So when I'm going to hit stop record on this, we got to pause for a minute because it's got to upload a little bit. You can't just drop. I guess you can't just drop off, from what I've heard, or else it won't upload.
Gotcha.
I'm going to hit the stop button after I do a little outro.
Okay.
And then if you could send me a promotional photo or two.
Okay.
To that email, that would help, because I'll make the graphics for the podcast on Spotify, because I can pull the audio from this.
Yeah.
And maybe a picture of your tin rig if you have one.
Okay. Yeah.
That'd be okay.
Sounds good.
Awesome. Well, that's our time. Season 2 underway, episode 1 with Mr. Ott Defoe. Thank you very much. I'm going to roll the music, and we'll see you next time.
knows about fishing, it never works out so well for the bait.
Come on, you could say it's okay, they know.
Metal is stronger than glass.
Tell them I'm going fishing.